This is The Bottom Line, a show designed to help Australian businesses succeed. On the show, you'll hear from leading Australian business owners as they share the lessons they've learned building their companies. You'll learn from their successes as well as some of the challenges they've faced along the way. We also talk to experts from a range of fields who share specialised techniques you can use to improve your business. I'm your host, Savan Tuna, and I'm a director at Alexander Spencer, and I'm really passionate about helping Australian businesses succeed. Today, we're speaking to Adam Jelic. Adam is the founder and managing director of MiGoals. MiGoals is a stationery brand that produces diaries, planners, and journals, which are specifically focused on goal setting. What started as a simple idea became the company's mission to create products that help people turn their goals from dreams to reality. In today's episode, you'll hear about the challenges Adam overcame in starting a stationery business, the importance of starting young for entrepreneurs, and how goal setting can transform your business. Let's jump in. Adam, welcome to our episode today. I want to start by asking you, tell me a little bit about MiGoals and your vision for the company.
Okay, so Sevan, thanks for having me on board. So MiGoals is a business I started back in 2010. It started as a little bit of a passion project. It's been a roller coaster journey for the last 10 years. So essentially it's a stationery brand where we create empowering stationery to help people set and achieve their goals. Like I said, it started as a passion project in the beginning. It was a very much so a problem solution situation where I couldn't find a product in the market that would help me set goals. So basically I decided to create my own and use it to set other goals in the beginning. So I tell people I started this business without any intention of starting a business. It was just, I'm creating a product to help me achieve other goals in my life. And then I go through the process of actually creating the product and it's like, this is pretty cool, works. Let's see if I can start selling it.
Goal setting, it's an interesting area to build your business in. And you talked about the fact that there wasn't anything in the market and so on, and the idea grew from you not seeing something in the market. Tell us more about that. As the market being filled in the space?
To give you a little bit of context, I mean, there's this thing where you connect the dots in terms of the business, and my connecting the dots was like a 10-year space. And I go back to when I was 16 years old, wanting to be a professional soccer player.
Yep.
That was my goal. That was my solution to having an extraordinary life and do something that was quite different. And it sort of escaped the 9 to 5. At that time, I read books about individuals in business, in sports, and there was a common denominator that I always talk about. My goal was, my goal is. And that got me onto goal setting. It was like, what is this goal setting thing? So quite early on, and I say I was quite fortunate, I understood the concept of goal setting, which was, when it gave me clarity, gave me focus and direction. And that was essentially what I was looking for. So it helped me focus on the things I should be focusing on. So I start setting goals at 16, all based around becoming a professional athlete. I remember writing my first set of goals on a black piece of paper with coloured pencils.
Wow.
At my grandma's place. So I remember writing, it was all, play for the Joeys, play for Australia, play for the Melbourne Knights. So that was all based around soccer. Unfortunately, I didn't achieve many of the goals. I got close in some areas, but it taught me the power of goal setting. It wasn't this whole thing of, you have to achieve all your goals to be successful. It was like, I needed direction. I needed focus. I needed to be focusing on these things that mattered. So I was fortunate in that respect. And then it's just stuck with me, goal setting. So after I don't become a professional soccer player, I sort of, go through this phase in my life, for the next 5, 6, 7 years where I just succumb to what everyone else wanted me to do. Parents want me to go to university. They want me to get a good job. And me at the time, go to university, I drop out after 6 months, I go become a personal trainer, I go and start selling photocopiers, personal training courses, all these different things. But at the same time, I was very unhappy. I had all these ideas and I had notebooks of ideas and dreams and I wasn't doing anything about it. So for a few years there, I tell people I wasn't angry with the world, I was angry with myself because I felt I had these things that I wanted to do and I wasn't doing nothing about it. And so essentially it got to a point where it was just like, I've got to do something. And then the light bulb was literally in a PD session. One of the teachers says, I want us to write our goals today. And I'm like, I already do this and it's fantastic. But there was something missing. I remember telling the boss at the time after the session, I said, something sparked in me today. I want to actually create my own goal setting journal for myself. He laughed it off. I didn't do much about it. And then it took probably another year or so just to sort of have the courage to go out there and go on the computer, type it all out, print it off, and then show a close friend, this is what I want to do. And he helped me put it together.
And the business started, so you got off the ground. This was 2 years in from the time that you put pen to paper on what you wanted. That would have been quite scary in itself with very little income. So what advice would you give to young entrepreneurs that has an idea like you did, that are hesitant to take that first step? What would you say to them?
I think my one regret, and I'm probably jumping the gun here, is I wish I started earlier. I started the business officially in 2010. And that year I got married. I already had a mortgage for a block of land. And then probably 12 months later, we found out we're having our first child. So all of a sudden, the responsibility from going from really no responsibility in my life to all of a sudden having to pay the mortgage, look after my wife, look after a newborn, all of a sudden I've got that on my plate. And then I've decided to start a business on the side as well. So MiGoals for the first 5 years was a part-time thing. I had to make ends meet. So I tell young people, if you've got an idea, go out there, give it a crack. I waited 5-6 years. I should have done something when I was 18, 19.
We see a lot of young entrepreneurs in our business, and that's a theme that comes through, that, to give it a go early in life, and, you live once and you can make mistakes along the journey, and it's great advice in that sense.
Well, it's always harder when you start it later with responsibilities.
Correct.
I had a wife saying, you're starting a diary business, and people have to realize the context. When you start a diary business, to start with, when that's your core product, you've got 6 months out of the year to sell that. So it's not even really a business.
Wow.
It's this passion project, and from a business sense, it doesn't make sense. You 5-6 months you sell, and then it goes quiet.
Well, that leads really good into the next few questions that I want to talk about. And it's the challenges that you've faced growing the business. What's the biggest challenge that you face on a day-to-day basis with the business today, and maybe in the past that you've overcome?
I think the biggest challenge overall has been a sense of self-belief. I think everyone starts at different points on their entrepreneurial journey, and everyone starts with, their sense of what their belief is, what's possible and what's not. In the beginning, I tell people my whole thing was, if I can get this book into one bookstore, that'll be amazing. Whereas other people, they start with the idea of, I want to make it, $2 million, $5 million, $10 million business. And they've got that self-belief in themselves. In the beginning, I didn't have that. I grew up in a family, middle-class family, European descent. Everything was don't take risks.
Risk averse.
Don't try anything. What if this happens? What if it goes wrong? What if you lose money? What if you go bankrupt? All these things, right? So that got ingrained in me for 10 years of my adulthood. So it was very hard to step outside that and not have many people around me that supported the idea. Everyone was saying, it doesn't make sense. What if this happens? So self-belief is probably the biggest challenge I've had throughout this whole journey. And I'm starting only now to sort of develop that belief in myself that, I can do this. This is possible.
So does that mean that self-doubts are still there? Are you taking the business to the next level where you're still worried and scared that it might fail, or now you've done it for 11 years is gone away?
I don't think you ever get rid of it. Who we are is who we are, and it stays with us. So I've got a lot better at managing it. I've learned to sort of take a step back and sort of say, what, I may not have hit these huge goals that I set in the beginning, but look at the progress that I've made. And I've learned to pat myself on the back and be, a little bit more nostalgic with it and go, look, we've got our products across the globe, and, I could travel to London, I could see the MiGoals brand there and people using it, and I could go to Middle East, I could go to America, and I could see the product being there. So I'm quite proud of what we've achieved. And I think the journey of belief, I think what happens is the more you do the thing, the more you face these fears, the better you become, getting through it.
Well, you talked about the growth. You're in London, Dubai, in the US, which is great. And we're proud to say MiGoals is a client of ours, but you've grown it. And how did you actually get to grow it? It's been 11 years. The first 5 years were a challenge, but you have grown this business. And what would you say? How did you do it?
For us, it's been a very organic process. We've been late to the table on plenty of things when it came to social media, influencer strategy, all these strategies. I mean, I'm not tech savvy at all. So in terms of jumping on and actually selling online, we're late to the party, probably 2 years late. And we sort of missed that period when you could really scale a business. So it's been very organic. The product's been good, beautiful design, minimalistic design. People have responded to the product. It's simple to use. So I think that's been one of the key things. We're actually proud of the product that we create. First and foremost, I created this product for myself. So all the products that we create are to solve my own issues.
Yeah.
So I think that's been one of the key things for our growth, and the fact that we've only scratched the surface. So I look at the business and I say, there's so many things that we haven't done yet that we have to improve on. So that excites me. If I was at a stage where we've crossed all the T's and we've done this, we've done that, we've tried this, we've tried that, and nothing had worked, then I'll be like, okay, maybe we're not onto something. But I still feel there's we're probably 60-70% to go in terms of where we want to go.
Well, that's really exciting. So I want to move on to a little bit of an area that you're obviously a bit of an expert in, which is goal setting. I was proud to see you on TV on a couple of occasions. So broadly speaking, why is goal setting important?
I think in today's age, what I've realised is we're inundated with information. It's such a noisy world, and there's all these things being thrown at us on a day-to-day perspective. And I remember reading a scientific review where they said we have between 50 and 60,000 thoughts per day on average. So there's a lot of things happening in our heads. And I think what we don't have is a good filter process. And I put my hand up. The reason I created a goal-setting journal was because I struggled with that. Having dreams and having ideas, I see new ideas like, oh, let's do that, let's do this, I should do this, I should do that. Whereas goal setting helped me really filter through all the noise and sort of say, nah, this is the focus, this is important to me, and this is what I need to focus on. And so then when I get off track, off tandem, then I'll go back to my goals and go, nah, this is important, come back to this. So goal setting for me, it's been a tool that really helps me grow and make progress. I think people take it in the wrong context. They think it's an all or nothing approach, where it's like, if I don't achieve my goals, I'm a failure. I don't achieve plenty of goals, but it's about the growth. It's about the progress towards something that actually matters.
Yeah.
And I think once people can define that, then they won't be so harsh on themselves. Then they'll be like, you know what, this is powerful because I feel overwhelmed, I feel out of control, and what do I do next? And I'm like, set a goal, sit down, take some time, understand who you are as an individual, and make a plan and stick to it as much as you possibly can. And you'll see the progress being made.
What would be the number one thing you'd say that goal setting is important about?
I think the one tip would be, as a starting point, would be focus on goals that matter to you. That's the biggest thing. I think we get carried away with what's happening in the external world. It happens to me numerous times per week, per day. It's like, oh, they're doing that, they're doing this. And it's like, focus on the things that actually matter. Really define what matters to you, what your definition of success is, what you want out of it. And once you can do that, once you can actually enjoy pick a goal that matters, then the whole process has got to be a lot more enjoyable. You're going to come up to the obstacles. You're not going to give up, straight away because you don't enjoy it. You're going to be like, you know what? I'm doing something I'm passionate about. I'm doing something that matters. I'm going to get through this. I'm going to work out a solution to get through it.
And obviously setting goals is the first step. And one thing that's important, do you have any tips for how to stay motivated to make sure that someone achieves their goals?
I'm going to take it back a little bit. The first step, I think, is really the self-awareness piece. Okay. So I think a lot of people jump straight into goal setting without really understanding who they are as an individual. So they jump in, they want to set a goal, but they don't really understand what matters. They don't understand their values, their purpose. So I think before we even set goals, it's the number one step is really get to understand yourself better. Have that conversation with yourself consistently. Who am I? What am I doing? Because once you can really define that and get really clear on that, your goals are going to be a lot more related to who you are and a lot more easily achievable. Obviously, you mentioned, second step is setting goals, but then the third step is developing rituals, habits, getting into a place where you can sort of control your day and set your day up. So, for me, it's like, what can I do today to take me one step closer to my goals? And I've taken this always something approach to my life. Whereas a lot of people have this all or nothing approach where it's like, I need to be perfect. I need to, go to the gym 7 days a week. I need to do this perfect. Whereas I've just taken, if I can do one good thing today to get to that goal that I've set at the end, that's positive. And it's like that compounding interest, right? Yeah. Your accountants will know you do something every single day, 365 days a year. That's 365 positive things that you've done. You do that consistently year in, year out, you'll see the results.
I can definitely relate to that. We've got someone that I know close to my heart, and he's tried to lose weight on many, many occasions and he's never really lost weight. Now that you talked about purpose, it kind of makes sense because this particular gentleman wanted to have a family. Most likely, the doctor said, if you want to fall pregnant, you're going to have to lose the weight. And this gentleman is now amazing. Like, I'm so inspired by him dropping over 50 kilos. But obviously for him, It was the family piece, the purpose, and that's an amazing tip and one that I think really gives you that fire, and it's important. And you do see it on the guys that have really achieved their goals. We're both passionate soccer people, and you know, there's some of those Spanish players or the South American that make it. They make it because they have a real strong purpose. That's an amazing tip.
100%.
And I've seen it in life.
And it's the passion and compelling reasons. If you're passionate about something, I've got this saying that I always refer back to, and it's to love what you do, feel that it matters, and make a living from it. What could be better?
Wow.
So those three things, if I can tick that off daily or consistently, if I'm in an industry, I love what I do. I'm passionate about, you know, personal development space. I get to impact people's lives. You know, there's nothing better than getting an email from someone saying your products have helped me do this and do that and change my life. That's a very humbling experience. And also that third piece is to make a living from it.
Yeah.
That's an important part, and I added that to it because I've been through stages where it's been super, super difficult, where you know, ready to throw in the towel. So I understand, yeah.
So I wanted to talk about some reflections on the business and what you expect in the future. You know, so much more to go within the business. So what has been your most satisfying moment in your business?
You know, there's been stages. You know, obviously in the beginning, the fact to see your book in one bookstore, to walk in and see your book on the shelf, that was that first initial thing. It's like, oh, this is actually possible. I can actually do this, right? That was that, oh, this is amazing. Can't wait to show people. And then throughout the journey, it's been, you know, getting into some, you know, major retailers in Europe, in the US, and sort of, you know, getting recognized in these different areas across the globe. Again, that was this moment where you think, okay, this is not just Australia. You know, we can make an impact in all these different countries. You know, being on TV, doing a segment on the Today Show, being seen in Forbes, in a magazine there, or on the online edition. So there's been numerous things, and I call it a journey of self-belief. It's just been a journey of, you know, what else can we add to it? So yeah, there's been plenty of highlights and lowlights as well.
Yeah, no, I could imagine. And what are the plans for MiGoals in the next 12 months?
What I did, I mean, probably during COVID, I did this little exercise where I wrote out, if I was to, you know, finish up MiGoals, you know, what are the things I still have to achieve? And there was maybe 20 things on the list. So, you know, develop a kids range. I've got 2 young daughters. I want to do something in that space because I see the opportunity to sort of, you know, create a lasting legacy there and help kids as well, because they're like sponges, and I think they need a little bit more structure and tools out there in the market. But then there's also, you know, expand into US properly, you know, set up 3PL, really hit it hard with digital marketing, influencer strategy there. You know, collabs, certain different collabs, people that we want to work with. So there's a list of 20 things there. So for me, if I get through, you know, 3/4 of that, I'll be happy. You know,
wow.
I can sort of close the book on it and start a different chapter.
Adam, you mentioned the kids range, and I also have 2 daughters at home, 9 and 5. And as parents, we try to instill goal setting and, you know, achieving dreams and all that kind of stuff. So kids range, is it similar to what you're doing? Because it is the product that you've got is quite unique and maybe targeted the adults. What range is it going to look like? What are some of the products you're thinking about?
It's definitely similar, and I go back to when I was young. I wish I had products like that in my life. I wish I had people around me sort of helping me get some more clarity, more direction, being able to sort of dream a little bit bigger. So the kids range is more of a broken down version of developing good habits and getting kids into a routine where it's not just I want this and I want it today or tomorrow. Amazing. You know, so it's sort of teaching them the key skills. If you want something in life, you know, there's a certain process with goal setting, what, why, when, how. You know, getting clear on, okay, what do I want? Why is it important that I want that goal? You know, having reasons behind actually wanting that goal. I mean, just sort of developing a to-do list on how to get that goal. So learning how to reverse engineer a dream, essentially, for these kids in the most simplistic way. And I've found, and you've probably found, kids like sponges. So if you can get kids on, you know, to a certain routine, a certain habit early on, you're doing them a huge favor, and especially when it comes to something that's as important as goal setting and sort of, you know, developing tools and rituals to help you become your best self.
It's an interesting one. I take my daughter to school a couple of days a week, and we have a chat in the car, and it's a fun experience. And you ask them questions like, you know, what do you want to be? You know, you get you get answers like, I want to be a princess at times and whatnot. But parents don't naturally think about it like goal setting. So, well, how are you going to be a princess, sweetheart? Like,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? If she said, I want to be a doctor, and, you know, you have to, the first answer being European background is you need to go to university,
Yeah.
right? You know? So, yeah, it's an amazing, I haven't seen too many products for that range. And I think having the tool as a parent to teach kids
100%.
around that, I think is an amazing opportunity for MiGoals to be able to do that. So, yeah, it's really, really exciting.
Also helpful for the parents as well. And the way I envisage, the first edition of it would be where it's aimed towards a 6 to 12-year-old and with parent supervision. So it's once a week, just sort of setting up the week and basing it off, these are the things that you want to do and these are the things that I'm grateful for. So a little bit of mindfulness in there as well. Yeah. Because I think that's, again, a thing that's been missed, right? Everything's very quick now. Everything's, the dopamine release is just like now. It's just like click, click, click. Whereas if kids can, get into the habit of being more mindful, self-aware, and not always just getting things the way they want, building a little bit of resilience, I think that's such an important thing because they're going to get to a stage, life is hard.
Yeah, it is.
And they're going to get to a stage where they don't get all the things they want and then they're going to be like, this is not fair. Whereas if we can teach them early on, it's got to be a powerful thing that stays with them.
Yeah, and I think not achieving a goal and being able to deal with that early on in life is also quite important. Whereas we protect our kids quite a bit. So when you go through this goal setting journey, if they don't hit some of those, then parents obviously have that opportunity to help kids out in how to deal with that. So 100%, it's really good.
Because remember what I said before, it's not about the end goal. It's about the journey and it's about progress. It's about growth. And that's something that we always miss. It's always, everyone's like, once I get to this point, I'll feel this, where it's just like, okay, forget about that. Why can't you feel that today? If you want, develop some progress, get into the habit of doing something that makes you feel good, understand your feelings. So there's all these things that if you can train your brain a little bit better, it helps out.
It's interesting because now that you're thinking about it, this is something they should just be teaching at school. Like, as early as kinder, prep, it just resonates you with whatever it is the kids do. But then they get into a workforce and we've got, lots of young accountants in our office and you want them to be the best that they can and you try to help them. And I think some of them are really good at goal setting. You can see they're very focused. They have habits that they've built in. But then there's also ones that you can just see that they haven't had the training or the education along the journey. So not only is it going to be great if you can get this launched and for the kids, but hopefully it'll help the employers out there in the journey. And leading into that, from a business perspective, is there a business range on the cards or things that would help? I know you do some corporate work. We use your diaries in the office, but what about the business side of things?
I mean, there's definitely tools that we're looking at. I mean, it's, everything's gone quite digital in terms of, Trello boards and these different Gantt charts and stuff like that. But bringing stuff analog back to analog and having, I think the next step for us from a range perspective or a business perspective is to make charts, wall charts. So from a visual representation, I think a lot of people, they're very focused on the day-to-day, which is fantastic, but they don't see the bigger picture and they need tools to help them see the bigger picture.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm struggling with at times because you get into the day-to-day, you get your day done but sometimes you get off track. And if you had that bigger visual picture of, what the next year looks like, 5 years, 10 years, the key things, the key essential things that you're aiming for, all of a sudden it doesn't feel as overwhelming. And then you're sort of like, that's what I'm aiming towards. Yeah. And you can focus on that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Because again, like you said, there's not a big kids range, but I don't see a lot of stuff out there targeting business owners in providing the tools that business owners can pass on, not only use for themselves, but also to pass on using their business with their staff in this range of goal setting and whatnot. There's lots of books that's been written about it, but the actual tools like the diaries, the progress journals and My Goal Digger and all that kind of stuff isn't really targeted to business.
Yeah, and like I said, I think the biggest thing that's lacking is there's a lot of tools in your apps and that, but it's very now. It's like, whereas the big picture stuff is probably the stuff that's, the directional piece. Those directional products are the ones that are lacking the most, the ones where it's very clear in terms of the direction that we're heading in. I need that for my business. I need it for myself.
Yeah.
So, and that's been one of the key things, right? What I've learned across the journey is whatever I think or whatever other people think, we're not too different from each other. It's like go with your gut feeling. I know if I'm lacking something, I know there'll be millions of other people lacking that same thing.
Yeah, that's really good advice. Yeah, the thing that I kind of didn't realize about goal setting was when you type on a keyboard your goals, it just isn't the same as writing it down with a pen and paper.
Yeah.
So I really do resonate with the analog pen paper strategy. And I feel like it's like an oath, like that you've made to yourself. And that's why I guess they say, you know, if it's not a goal until you write it down.
Yeah.
But the online space is different with apps and keyboard and mobile phones. Are really, for me, writing a goal down is really important.
It's different because I think when you write it down, you're focused on that. It's like there's no distractions, there's no notifications, there's no fancy little apps popping up and saying, oh, should I check my socials? It's like, you know, I'm actually in this moment, I'm clear, I'm thinking about my goals. And that's where we sort of get into that flow state where it's just like, okay, this is what I want. We keep writing it down and we get excited. We're sort of utilizing parts of the brain that we don't essentially do when, you know, we're typing things out. Because all of a sudden we're probably quite anxious in terms of what else is, you know, on that app and what's my email saying, has it not emailed? So we're not in that state of flow where it's, this is what I'm focused on and this is what I want to do. And then also having that tangible thing to hold. It's like ebooks and physical books. You know, everyone thought the ebook reader was going to take over the physical book market, where it hasn't. People like something tangible. They like seeing it. They like putting it up on a shelf. There's that sense of achievement, accomplishment when you finish a book. You know, everyone says, you know, your industry is stationery, and it's like it's growing. People are coming back to pen and paper, or they're becoming hybrid users. Yeah. Which is, yes, they're going to use their mobile phones for a lot of things, but at the same time, they're going to carry around pieces of paper, notebooks, diaries, planners, because they need that sense of control. And that's what it comes down to. It is a very noisy, crazy world out there, and people need tools to help them, you know, come back to that sense of control in their own lives. Yeah.
Adam, you mentioned throwing in the towel earlier. Tell me more about that.
I tell people business is hard. And there's that saying, if it was easy, everyone would do it. And there's this thing with business and life in general that we tend to see a lot of highlights. We tend to see, you know, businesses that have expanded quite quickly or grown quite quickly, get media attention. And that sort of puts a lot of pressure on a lot of business owners because you tend to compare yourself to those cases, right? You said, you know, look, they're 24 months and they're already, you know, at $10 million or $20 million or this, and they're expanded here. And then you look at your business and it's like, you know, we haven't had that growth or we haven't had that explosion. And so there's been plenty of times throughout the journey where it's been tough. I mean, like I said, the first 5 years, it was a roller coaster ride, working full time, building this on the side, not making much money or not, you know, losing money at the same time, printing locally. So there's been a lot of times where it's like, is this even worth it? And it's taken 10 years literally to sort of get to a point where it's like, you know what, I can see the positives come out of it. You know, I mean, I look at our business as in a sports context, you look at the ones that, you know, Gary Ablett's, Lance Franklin, these are the guys, you know, that always get mentioned, right? But at the same time, I look at us as a journeyman of business. We've been doing it for 10 years. We're still around. We still had a good career, but we probably don't get the limelight, accolades, the limelight, and that's okay. I've come to a point where it's like, I don't have to be the next Zuckerberg. I don't have to be the next Musk, or, you know, there's more important things in my life. So I think that's why that defining that what success is to me has really helped me in this situation. It's like, I don't need to drive around Rolls Royces or whatever. You know, it's nice, you know, but, you know, there's more important things. And I also realize to get to that level, there's a lot of sacrifice that has to be made. And so before you start anything, you got to realize what are the sacrifices you're willing to make to get to that level. And if your answers, if it's honest, and it's just like, you know what, I still want to see my kids, I want to take my kids to school, I want to spend time enjoying myself, then, you know, that's okay. You can build a successful business and you know, make good money and make impact, and you can still enjoy your life. So
yeah, I can definitely relate to the sacrifices in my journey here. But for me, it wasn't really goal setting, but what really made me want to be an accountant or achieve something in life was my father took me when I was very, very young to his factory, and he got me up really, really early, and he did it for 2 weeks during school holidays. And at the end of the 2 weeks, he knew I was struggling, getting up 5 a.m. And he said, you have two choices in life. One is to do what I do and to get into, you know, working in a factory and slogging it out. Yeah. Or you work hard, you study, you know, you've heard the stories, and you work really, really hard at it and really achieving your goals. And you do whatever it takes. And from that moment, I never wanted to work in a factory. And I'm early to the journey of writing down my goals, but mindset in terms of how I am, I love the journey of goal setting and achieving something. Yeah, the sacrifice piece is really important.
100%. And I think at the end of the day, I think we're all aiming for the same thing, which is, you know, people say happiness or fulfillment. and that's what I've come down to. It's like, what brings me fulfillment? And now I don't think we ask ourselves enough, what is that fulfillment piece? Because you can spend your time building up an empire, you can have all this money, you can have all these things and hate your life.
Yeah.
Whereas
true.
I think it's more important to be really clear. If you love working, like Warren Buffett loves working, like he loves making money. And it's not about how much, it's just about making money. And that's his passion. So he keeps doing it. So I think you really have to, define what that is and look to sort of, find joy and fulfillment as much as you possibly can in your life, because that's success. It's not how much you have in your bank or what car you drive. It's like, are you happy? Are you fulfilled? Are you in the moment? Are you present? Are you doing things that you love? Are you got good people around you? So there's all these different pieces. Money's one piece.
Yeah, agreed.
But there's multiple things to it. So I think it's that introspective look at yourself and that self-awareness, which is the missing piece. Everyone's just, okay, I set a goal and I want this and I want that. I want. It's like, but why? Being really clear on that. And I question myself multiple times a week, multiple times a day when I get off track. It's like, why am I doing this? Why am I feeling like this? So really being my own life coach helps me a lot, because I've had anxiety issues. I've had, self-belief issues, like everyone's got things to deal with. And I found by asking myself, by getting clear, writing things down, by having goals, that helps me.
And the final question, what is your major goal that you'd like to achieve this year? You kind of half answered that, but you had to pick one of the 20.
I think realistically this year we're sort of aiming towards the US expansion. Set up the 3PL. I've been in chats with, certain 3PL players there in the US. Set it up and then really push hard Q3, end of Q3, Q4, and just see what we can do in the US. Because it's been very organic these last few years, where it's like, let's really push the marketing, digital marketing, and see if we can really expand that market.
Well, Adam, I want to thank you for joining me today. I do use your diaries and your goal setting journals. It's definitely helped me keep me in check and achieve the goals that I want to achieve. I want to thank you for joining us. It's been insightful talking to you.
Thank you so much, Sevan.
This is The Bottom Line, a show designed to help Australian businesses succeed. This podcast was produced by accountancy firm Alexander Spencer. At Alexander Spencer, we've been helping business owners realise their goals since 1952. And we play a pivotal role in developing, implementing, and supervising the business goals and strategies of our clients. To find out how we can help your business succeed, head to our website, alexanderspencer.com.au. To make sure you don't miss an episode of The Bottom Line, be sure to subscribe to or follow the show in your podcast app. And while you're there, leave us a 5-star review. It really helps others find the show. I'm Sevan Tuna, and we'll be back next episode with more tips to help you transform your business. And that's The Bottom Line.